Aloha! All right, a few of you have been to Hawaii before. So our question today is, does energy impact the work you're doing and the work you care about? My name is Dawn Lipper. I'm the founder of the Energy Accelerator. We're based in Hawaii. This is Rachel Pritzker of the Pritzker Innovation Fund. We're going to spend the next few minutes talking to you about this question. So many do think of energy as primarily an environmental issue. It's all about the climate, our environment, clean air, clean water. But it's actually about much more than that. And it's not just us that think this. Actually, the UN thinks this as well. And in a report released with the Millennium Development Goals, they identified energy as a key prerequisite to achieving all 8 of the Millennium Development Goals. So what does that mean for us, and why are we interested in this space? Rachel, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into this space and what interests you in it?
Sure. To start, I have to apologize. I sound a little funny today because I'm battling with a head cold. But starting all the way back with how I got into this space, I would have to say I think it's because I was raised on a goat farm by hippie parents who met on a commune. And so we lived a life that was as simple and as close to nature as possible. And so it really seems just sort of natural that when I ended up working in philanthropy, my focus was on environmental issues and on climate change. And what struck me, the more I began to dig into this space and learn about this space, is the magnitude and the scale of the challenge and how limited the tool set we were focusing on really was. And to me, it felt like we were narrowing our tool set down so much that it didn't feel like it was really up to the scale of the challenge. So a simple way to describe this to you would be the fact that almost 20% of humanity doesn't have access to energy. And as a result, energy consumption is likely to double or triple or even quadruple in the coming century. And that's because people around the world aspire to the same high-quality, prosperous lives that we all have. And so that means that our solutions to climate change also need to take into account the aspirations of all these people and the needs of the sort of societal benefits that energy also provides. To achieve that, I think we're going to need to think a lot bigger, and I think we're going to need to think a lot deeper about how we address these interrelated challenges.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talked about thinking bigger and thinking deeper. So one of the things that the Energy Accelerator, our organization, just to give you a little bit of background, we're actually a nonprofit with a for-profit follow-on fund. So it's a hybrid model to find startups that are transforming the world, and not just in the US. So people think about putting on solar panels or electric vehicles, but it's not just about that. It's also about reaching out to people in underserved communities and in developing countries. So we can actually develop technologies in the US or in Canada or in Europe that can benefit the entire world. We can give you a couple of examples. So we're funded primarily by the Navy as well as by private investors as well as corporations that are all looking across the energy system and trying to focus on transformation. So we're based in Hawaii. We have companies from all over the country. We're working with 42 portfolio companies right now. And just an example of one of these companies that's doing things really interesting in developed world that can apply to the developing world is a company called FreeWire. They're actually based right here in San Francisco. And they take second life batteries from electric vehicles and use them for generators. So you can see that this makes a lot of sense in cities or places where we have noise pollution, even on film sets. But it also makes sense for places that are off-grid or developing countries, a really low-cost way to provide clean power without the diesel emissions. Another company that we're working with that can apply across sort of the income scales, a company called Pono Home. I see the CEO right here in the audience, one of our portfolio companies that is actually going into low-income housing and doing retrofits for people in those housings or in those homes and teaching them about energy and water and doing maintenance and the retrofits for them. So it's not all about sort of education, here's what you need to do, but like, let's get in and get dirty and do that for you. So there's all kinds of solutions that we're working with across our portfolio to do this. And as we're looking at different companies in the portfolio, we also get a really unique window into who's investing in these companies. And what we're seeing is that there are many more companies and opportunities than there are just pure VC investors or pure venture investors. So we need to look for other sources of capital that have a patient time horizon that can step into this space and help make this transformation possible. And this is exactly why we're here at SOCAP and why we're looking at sort of the philanthropic space and foundations as a way to help fill that gap. There's $50 billion last year that went out in grants from foundations. Only 0.1% of that went to energy innovation. So what does that really mean for the opportunity set here? And I also am curious, from your perspective, what are you actually working on at the Pritzker Innovation Fund, and what do you see as sort of the key opportunities in this space?
Yeah, so the Pritzker Innovation Fund is a philanthropic organization, and we focus on supporting new ideas to some of the most wicked problems. And obviously, we focus primarily on that intersection between climate change and poverty. So for us, as well as what Don just said, innovation has been a key thing that we've been focusing on, particularly in the energy technology space. We feel that better, cheaper, clean energy will help really across the board a huge range of problems. So we look for those leverage points, though, that we feel can have the biggest impact. And that means the things really that other people have overlooked. So whether that's nuclear innovation or CCS or frankly all the things that people sort of go, oh, I don't want to have to think about that. We really think that we can't overlook any of the potential solutions to these gigantic challenges. So a lot of what we do is focus on government spending and government policy to help make the space friendlier for private capital to flow into. So one example of that is the fact that we've identified over 50 companies in the advanced nuclear innovation startup space in the US alone. And because there was no path through the licensing process for them, they were having a hard time raising capital, and many of them were leaving the country. Bill Gates' TerraPower is a perfect example of one that gave up on the US and went to China. So we thought this was a key leverage point we could help address. And so in the last couple of years, we've done a lot to clear that path, to create a staged, risk-informed, sort of appropriate licensing environment to help increase the private capital that could flow into that startup space. So we also discovered in that process that when you have new solutions, when you add tools, and frankly, when you bring a new conversation into the DC sort of polarized partisan space, it can often break down that partisanship. So we discovered this through working on these sort of taboo subjects. And in fact, a great example of that is that 2 days ago, our piece of nuclear innovation licensing bill passed out of subcommittee with unanimous support. That means, the absolute most, climate skeptic all the way to the most climate hawks in the House were in favor of this bill. And finally, I want to say that while we've been sort of saying we need funding in the energy technology space, in the last couple of years, a lot of great promising things have happened. So at the climate talks in Paris, we saw they kicked off with these 2 giant announcements, one from 18 governments. The Mission Innovation crew came together and said, we are committing to double our spending on energy technology. And then from the private side, Bill Gates and 27 others with the Breakthrough Energy Coalition committed to investing large dollars in this space as well. So for that reason, I'm feeling pretty hopeful about it.
Congratulations on that, Bill. It's really big news. I think this has been a big year. If you look at sort of mission innovation and the movement from sort of the impact or philanthropic community into energy innovation, that's been really significant. Also, it's been a big year for some of our partners. We have partners at Prime that you've been involved with and that we've been a partner with. They're an organization that actually helps foundations figure out exactly how to invest in this space. What do the mechanics of that look like? How do you make program-related investments, other investments? I gave a talk on some of these kinds of tools last year at SOCAP, and we've seen, Prime made their first investment. We've seen a huge amount of activity now in this space in the last year. So things are really moving and taking off, and I think the opportunity is perfect right now for many of these things. But I also know that the hurdle to getting into the energy and innovation space can seem really high. So you've heard us talk about 2 key things here today, both sort of energy innovation and the role of innovation in a changing world, but then also policy. And these can be really complicated questions, and they aren't necessarily for every philanthropist or every investor to learn about. So we have a few shortcuts for you. We have a Get Started kit, a starter kit that we have at our Energy Lounge to kind of help figure out how to navigate this. You don't have to learn everything yourself. You can partner with people who have really figured out this space and can help you figure out what you want to do in this area. So organizations like ours, Energy Accelerator, like Prime, like the Aligned Intermediary, there's incubators all over the country, including right here in your backyard in San Francisco or in Berkeley, like Cyclotron Road, all kinds of people that can help navigate this space. So our challenge to you today is to talk to one person or make one friend who knows something about this sector. There's a lot of us. We're really nice. Come up to us. Come chat with us. And talk to them about why they think this is a great opportunity and what this means to us in terms of moving the world forward. So the last thing I'll end with here, we've been doing this since we were little, but you don't have to be that way. You can come to this space at any time and use it to impact the kinds of things that you really care about in terms of human development goals, impacting water, ecosystems, all different sort of kinds of issues that we're talking about at this conference. So come chat with us, make a friend. The entire world is going to power. Like Rachel said, 20% of the world right now does not have electricity they need to meet their basic human needs. We will be building that electricity. We will be giving people that power across the world. The question is whether we burn up our planet doing it and what that looks like. And that's really our collective and collaborative choice as we move forward. So join us and learn more about this and join us in our quest for energy innovation. Thanks.